Hi, new topic. Let's talk about when I think you should get a stage or if you should get a extra twin set when you dive. Because eventually you probably come to that question, but you start with a single cylinder and you get some 40 minutes about that, give or take a few minutes. So that will give you a proper dive recreationally, and you probably have another cylinder for the second dive. So you get two cylinders, but you waste 50 bars on each. If you get a twin set and you do a single dive, you probably feel that you have all the air you ever gonna need. Is you have plenty of gas, probably 1.5, 2 hours about that. Depends on your consumption rate. I probably breathe kind of much, so for me 1.5, 2 hours approximately. But if you do two dives, you still get two cylinders, just as you do when you do a single dive. But you don't waste 50 bars on both, only on one bottle, because you can use out of these 200 bars, you can use 100 bars the first dive and still have abundant 100 extra bars as uh, as reserve, so you don't have to have 50 bars left on that bottle since you have two bottles. So you can use the first bottle fully, then the 50 bars on the second bottle. So you save about 50 bars with a twin set. So you don't get that much extra gas if you do two dives. That's when you start to think perhaps like, should I get a stage bottle or should I get another twin set so I can change twin set in between dives? I think they don't fill the same purpose, but they have an overlap where they have one uh, um, common thing, and that is they can be used to extend your bottom time. So a twin set can only do that, but the um, stage cylinder can do so many things. It can be extended bottom time, and you actually plan on using it. So you plan with a twin set and a stage cylinder in your dive plan, or you can have it just as redundancy. You don't plan to use it, but you have it. So if something happens, you have an extra whatever. If you have a LU80, you have about 11 liters times 200 bars, and that is probably like 40 minutes of air. Or you can use it with nitrox 50% or 100% oxygen, so you can use it for many purposes when you have a stage bottle. I got a stage bottle first, and I think that might be a good idea because you can use it for many different things. But eventually, I think you should actually get a twin set as well. An additional twin set, yeah, too. Because of when I did more of a trial kind of, when I was diving with people that held courses and they wanted to either check your skills or had course, every time you do some tech kind of education or if you do some fundamentals or stuff, they probably want to have as much bottom time training and drilling and trying things and see where you're at as possible. So they probably gonna be in the water about 1.5, 2 hour every time you be underwater. They, for instance, when we did the GUE fundamentals, we were in a small little place called Lysekil in the west coast of Sweden, and we had this very nice dive center, Team Lysekil, just besides the area we were diving, just beside the shore, so you can walk there with the twin set on and back. And while you have the debriefing when they show you on the video, like this is you silted a little bit here, or your flutter kicks wasn't good here, there, or your trim was off, or whatever the debriefing might be. So you go through the whole dive, get some pointers on every person, what they could do better or what they did good. and what they should get credit for. So the deep breathing takes a little time, maybe eat a little bit and rest and get that surface interval out of the way, and the center field or stage or twin sets while we were doing that. So we only needed one twin set because of the logistics was very good. But if we go to, for instance, when we didn't have enough time and the weather was bad at some point, so we couldn't maybe do the dives we hoped to do, and we simply didn't have enough time. So we were continue back in Stockholm, and we went to a limestone quarry called Vagnhärad. I think it's closed now. Sadly, it was one of my favorite places to dive in Stockholm's area. Very clear water, and about 40-45 meters deep. And it was a tunnel down at 40 meters. I wonder where it went. I never went in there. So it had that, and it was like a very shallow part where it was like 2-3 meters, and they had like an old Cessna plane for some kind of film. They used that as a prop, I think. But anyway, then we had two dives at no dive center in close proximity. So all of us had double, uh, or we had two twin sets. So first dive about 1.5 hour, 2 hours, then surf interval, then again. I think it was the same when I dove with some other instructors. They were like 2 hours in the water, and they said like, can everybody who doesn't have an extra twin set go and drive to the closest place that have gas filling and come back, because you want as much time underwater as you possibly can get when you have a course, so you can really get it down, because you know it can really make difference to get all that time you can get out of it. And also, since you pay pretty much for the courses, so why not get as much out of it as possible? So I think it's important when you do courses and stuff that you get to, really get as much time as possible. And twinset is the best to extend your bottom time, because then you can have two bottles, then two bottles, instead of two and use one bottle, or use half of the bottles, then you just have three in total, no matter how you twist and turn. So I think it's definitely better if you have extra twin sets when you have long dives, or when you go to, for instance, there is a quarry that is called Kolsva. I don't remember how long it took, maybe 2-3 hours there and 2-3 hours back, so somewhere between 4 and 6 hours. So if you only have like 30-40 minutes per dive and you only do two dives, that's a bad ratio, dive drive ratio. You have way more driving than diving. So then it's very good to have two twin sets. But on the other hand, go for a boat dive. A boat might not have all that space, so then another twin set might just be bad logistics. Then it's very good with a stage. So I think it's good to start with a stage, because if you're going to dive deeper and longer, you occasionally, or not occasionally, how, what is that expression, that you at a certain point you will get into deco, and then you should have the possibility to accelerate that deco. So if you're going deeper and longer, eventually you will have to go thick. So then you need a deco bottle. So I think it's sound to get a stage cylinder. You can use it first as redundant or extended, but eventually you're probably gonna go deco. Then you have that already. And if you're going to do those courses, you probably need another twin set, because of you're gonna be so much diving during those courses, and not always have logistics with a compressor nearby. So I think both are probably I need to have pretty fast on into that. In the as long as you start to elevate and go courses that are thick or somewhere more advanced, you probably need a ton of things. You probably noticed that you have all of a sudden you have two twin sets. You have LU80, LU40. You get a 7 liters, one for extended bottom range, and one for 50%, and one for oxygen. All of a sudden you have like a ton of bottles. And I know a guy who started his full cave course quite recently, and he said they had like a twin set, two, or was it 3 stages? So they got about 4 or 5 bottles while diving. You see, it start to add up. You will eventually probably get both twin set and a stage. But I think if the logistics are bad, for instance, boat ride, then I think a stage is the best way to extend your limits. And also, if you go down with a boat and not go a shore dive where it might take long time to get to 30 meters or whatever, and you just go down directly to 40 meters and be down there, you have very short NDL. So you're probably sure you can have nitrox and all that, but you're probably gonna end up having deco anyway. Then I would be, if I would go on a boat, have a stage cylinder just for the deco alone. That in itself would be needing stage cylinder. So maybe I would bring two or one big 80 cubic feet of 50%, so I can use it both times. So yeah, I think they will both be needed in time, but I would probably start with the stage. I think it was a fair way to start. I think it was good, partially because I learned to use it, and also that it gave me a multitude of options. I could do the deco thing, I could do the extended diving time. It opened up a lot of doors. But the thing is, if you do the fundamentals, for instance, I don't know if they would appreciate that during the GUE course, that you have stage and stuff that aren't a part of the course, that you add task loads and stuff that shouldn't be there. I think that could interfere with the course. And I think that if you're doing things that aren't on the level where you have stages and you add them, I think that might interfere with the course. So during course, I think bring a double or two twin sets instead of just one. So that's where I think they overlap in the extended bottom time, but the stages are so much more than just extended. You can have it for the eco reasons, or you can just stage it there and you might not even use it, or just have it on you and don't use it, and just have it as redundancy that you don't even plan for have it, but just in case. And you can give it away to someone else if they get unaware. You can just give them the whole bottle instead of you give them the long hose. You can just give them the whole stage bottle. But if it's a deco bottle, of course you can't do that. But if it's just for redundancy, or if it's somewhat something that, since you're already gonna share your errand, you already in the planning know that if someone is unaware, you have to be able to help them. So they can give them a whole bottle instead of have to be on the same system. So it's kind of nice in that way as well. So yeah, that's probably it.